Put a pin in 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 9. Hebrews chapter 13, verses 1 and 2. 1 Peter 4 and 9. We're continuing in our series around a culture shift and particularly a culture of hospitality. Are you ready for the word? Listen for the word of the Lord. Keep on loving one another as brothers and sisters. Do not forget to show hospitality to strangers. For by so doing, some people have shown hospitality to angels without even knowing it. 1 Peter 4:9 says, offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. Can I say that again? Offer hospitality to me, to one another, to your neighbor, without grumbling. Don't you hate when somebody does something for you, but they act like it's, killing them to do it? That's what that text is for. Some people you don't even want to, borrow $5 from. They, can't believe you need another $5. Oh, man. That's the text. Today, I want to talk from the title, Put Your Best Foot Forward. Talk about putting your best foot forward. If you have ever performed on a stage, if you've ever played a team sport, if you ever sat for a job interview, you ever cooked a big meal, hosted a party, you've probably heard at some point in your life or been encouraged to put your best foot forward. Putting your best foot forward means approaching a situation or interaction with a proactive and a positive attitude, not with grumbling, but proactive and positive. When you put your best foot forward, that shows you care about the outcomes that you produce. You care about the quality of your work. You care about the quality of your appearance. You care about the quality of your performance. Putting your best foot forward. Your mother sends you to school on the very first day. She wants you to make a good impression. Dad wants you to make a good impression. Puts on your best new school clothes that you have shopped for all of August, because the first day of school, we want our children to put their best foot forward. First impressions make a big deal. When you put your best foot forward, you strive to be your authentic self, not pretending to be someone else. Otherwise, that would entail putting someone else's best foot forward. That's the big mistake some people make, Section 3. You're so busy trying to be somebody else, you don't put your best foot forward. You put in somebody else's best foot forward. And guess what? Their foot doesn't fit your feet. Rather than putting your best foot forward, means playing to your strengths, playing to your gifts, amplifying your aptitudes, if you will. But this age-old idiom is not limited to individual behavior, y'all. It also includes the behavior and attitude of a group of people, a culture of an organization, a church, for example. In this regard, the phrase was used by a Norwegian soccer coach who developed what he called the putting your best foot forward theory. The coach, his theory suggested that a highly successful and especially a winning team coach is one where not only does each individual team member put her best foot forward, but all members of the team know each other's best foot. Watch me now. It's not just that I know how to put my best foot forward. I know Audrey and Dale's best foot. I know their best side. I know their strengths. I know their aptitudes. Here's what's going on. When you do something, right? The theory of putting your best foot forward, right, it was developed by this guy who says that each player needs to know the other's best foot. And when they do, you will only kick or pass to that teammate's best foot. You don't kick or pass to their weak foot because you know their weak foot. In other words, each team member knows what their team's members' strengths are and needs are so that they know how to set each other up for success. Let me give you just a parenthetical note. I'm going to go off the page here just a moment. You know, some people, rather than play to your best foot, they like to play to your weak foot. Some people will like to play with your weakness. If they know your left hand is your weak hand, guess what? They'll throw it way over to your left because they want to strike you out. They want to set you up for failure rather than for success. You need people in your life who know which foot is your best foot, and they will always amplify your best foot, your strong suit, your area of gifting. They're not going to put you up to sing if you can't sing, just to embarrass you. Right? They're not going to do that. That's somebody who wants to shame you, like, come on up here and sing today for a sister, and we all going to laugh at you, right? This Norwegian soccer team, right, had a lot of relatively average players. They were a regional team. They weren't able to draw from talent all over the area. They were from a relatively small area, but they came to gain quite a reputation for beating teams with much, much greater talent. This regional team, remember, they're picking from a small pool of talent, but they were winning national championships, beating teams with greater talent. Not the best talent, they didn't have the best talent, but they were the best team. But as a collective, they were putting their best foot forward by virtue of the fact that they were giving each other what each other needed in order to succeed. Watch what I'm saying here now. Putting your best foot forward, at least the theory developed by this Norwegian soccer coach, suggests that when we take the time to learn and discern the need of our brother, the need of our sister, which means playing to their strong suits and supporting their weaker areas, then collectively we become a much stronger, more effective, and winning team. And that, my friends, is my working definition of hospitality today. Simply put, hospitality is giving someone what they need in order to succeed. I don't know what that is. I don't know, but you have to discern what they need. Giving someone something that they need in order to succeed. That's what hospitality looks like. That's what hospitality feels like. You know, my grandmother, she had the most hospitable home in all of Austin. It wasn't the biggest home. It wasn't the best home. Wasn't the nicest home. Wasn't the prettiest home. But it was home to anybody who needed a home. We had cousins. I don't even think they were really our cousins. But Big Mama would say, come on here. Your cousin's going to be sleeping on the couch. We come home. We're like, who is that snoring? She's like, your cousin. That's just one of your cousins. Like, Big Mama, that's not a cousin. Well, one time we had a cousin who was down on his luck. He was addicted to alcohol. My grandmother got him in church. The church got him in AA, and he would lay on that couch and just snore. And we didn't have a very big house. It was only 2 bedrooms. And he had the living room, which is where the couch was, and he would snore, and it would feel like the walls were just shaking. We were all like, when is Cousin Billy going to go home? Big Mama said, this is his home. This is how long is he going to be here? As long as it takes to get himself together, to get back on his feet. Well, I told you she got him into church, made him go to church every Sunday morning. Church got him into AA. AA got him to learn a trade. Then he got him a little old wife. He married his baby mama. And then he got a job. He's a welder still to this day. And because my grandmother gave him what he needed to succeed, today he's got a wife, children, grandchildren, and a job, his own home. Hospitality means giving someone what they need in order to succeed. I believe that that's what the writer of Hebrews is preaching about to this congregation. Remember that the first 12 chapters of Hebrews constitute a lengthy sermon that lays out an extended discourse on just who Jesus is. The word Christology, remember? But when we get to chapter 13, the sermon is over. The sermon is actually over, and the preacher now offers a series of basically announcements concerning the application of the message. And I'm going to do that at the end of this sermon. I'm going to give you some announcements that I want you to apply based on what we learn in today's sermon, right? So notice, therefore, that the first takeaway from the sermon is an admonition to keep on loving one another, verse 1, and not to forget to show hospitality to the strangers, verse 2. This mandate, church, this mandate is designed to admonish listeners to meet the essential needs of both those who they know and those who are strangers. Keep on loving one another. And don't forget, while you're at it, to show some hospitality to some strangers, because guess what? You might be welcoming somebody or showing hospitality who is an angel and you didn't even know it. Remember, in ancient biblical times, strangers were often travelers on their way, sometimes just searching for better opportunities. Sometimes they were leaving a land that had become a place of famine, or there was a major drought. Sometimes they were traveling to escape from oppression. So these were people who were traveling at very difficult times, and it was a very difficult period, and sometimes often under great stress and duress, right? That they were traveling. There were no hotels at the time. It didn't matter if you had a Marriott membership or not. There were no Bon Boy rewards, right? You had to sleep wherever you could find. There was no clean water in some cases. The conditions were very threatening. It was dangerous. You never knew when you were going to be attacked by a predator. That's what is going on if you know the Old Testament Psalm 121, when it says, I will look to the hills from which cometh my help. My help comes from the Lord. This psalm was a psalm of ascent that the people used to sing when they were walking up the hill toward Jerusalem. Jerusalem is where the temple is. They were walking under some treacherous roads. In fact, not any real roads. They were walking in some treacherous conditions. That's why they said in verse 7, the Lord will keep you from all harm. It was a dangerous journey. It was a dangerous undertaking. So when people are moving around in this ancient biblical time, there was a great need for sometimes someplace to get a cold glass of water. Someplace to lay your head. The reference to the danger seen and unseen in Psalm 121 points to God's ability to help. And guess what? Oftentimes, God's help comes from your hospitality. Somebody say, I ain't God. No, yeah. The help God provides comes in the form of your hospitality. Hospitality is what these travelers need in order to succeed on their journey. That's why Hebrews chapter 13, verse 2 is so important. That's why the preacher, after preaching 12 chapters, makes the point. Now, don't forget, in all you do, to welcome or show hospitality to strangers, because strangers need that hospitality. Strangers need that help in order to succeed. Church, that's what Jesus is calling us to do today, to show hospitality to the stranger. Show hospitality to the person on your pew. Show hospitality to the man on your job. Show hospitality to the single mother down the street. Just like Jesus gave us not what we deserve, but what we need, we too are called to look beyond other folks' faults and see their needs. Let me show you why a culture of hospitality is so critical to the Christian walk. You cannot be a Christian and not be hospitable. Right? Giving people what they need to succeed is, number one, an extension of God's love. Somebody say extension of God's love. Yeah, that's why we see the joining of the call to keep on loving one another as brothers and sisters in Hebrews 13, verse 1. We see that joined with the call to show hospitality to strangers in verse 2. The preacher puts those together. Why? Because love is what every human being needs to succeed. I can't succeed without love. I can't win without love. I can't grow without love. That's why some children don't develop properly, because early in their life, there was nobody to touch them, to hug them, to hold them, to show them love. Even strangers need love. That's why the word hospitality literally contains the word love in it. I told you that last week. From last week, you may recall that I said the Greek word for hospitality is a compound word. It's pronounced philo, xenio, right? Philo, which basically is the Greek word for love, a brotherly or sisterly love. I told you last week, that's why the people in Philadelphia, Sister Corey, call their city the city of sisterly and brotherly love, because it is a philo. Now, the second half of the word is xenio, which means stranger. So when you put it all together, the word for hospitality literally means stranger love, or love for the stranger. Hospitality is simply giving someone what they need to succeed. And in this case, a stranger needs some love. Somebody say, where is the love? Show me some love. Sometimes the need is a hot meal. Sometimes the need is a holy hug. Sometimes the need is just a helping hand. Sometimes all I need is to hear somebody say, hello. Sometimes the need is a place to lay my head. Let us not forget, hospitality is not always about inviting someone into your home, but it is always about inviting someone into your heart. Giving them the love that they need in order to succeed. That even applies to a stranger, y'all. In fact, the writer of Hebrews goes out of his way to include strangers in his conception of hospitality. For in our dominant culture and wider culture, we are taught to reserve hospitality for people we know, for people we like, for people who are like us. But I draw your attention to a helpful example of genuine hospitality recorded in Luke's gospel, right? Remember in Luke chapter 19, there was a little man named Zacchaeus, and he was sitting up in a tree, Sister Pam, and he got up in the tree just because he wanted to get a little glimpse of Jesus. And Jesus called to him. You know the story, Pam. Jesus called to him and said, Zacchaeus, come down. I must stay at your home today. And Jesus invited himself into the man's house. And what little did Zacchaeus know, not only was he entertaining an angel, he was entertaining an angel who was above all of the angels. That's why you got to show hospitality to the stranger, because sometimes the stranger is Jesus who's come to visit you. Sometimes the stranger is an angel who comes to you hungry. Zacchaeus shows what is indeed biblical hospitality. He tells him, he said, oh, Jesus, look, I know they talk about me real bad out here, but I want you to know, I give today back to the poor. I will correct any wrong. I will increase whatever I've taken wrongly from someone. Notice then what happens as a result of Zacchaeus' hospitality. Notice how Jesus sees the good in Zacchaeus when others only see the bad. That's what hospitality does. It sees what you need in order to succeed, right? Jesus made a powerful pronouncement in verse 9. That's Luke chapter 19, verse 9, when he says of Zacchaeus, today salvation has come to this house. Oh, but I need you to pay attention today. Pay attention to the rationale that Jesus offers for the fact that salvation has come to the house of Zacchaeus. It's not because Zacchaeus has been some great man. No. It's not because Zacchaeus gives his money away to the poor. No. It's not because Zacchaeus just happens to have a really nice house. No. Jesus said it is because he too is a son of Abraham. We ought to treat everybody like they are sons and daughters of Abraham. His salvation becomes of who he is, not what he does, not what he's done, not how he lives, but because of who he is. Jesus says he too is a son of Abraham. And as a son of Abraham, he's an heir to the promise of God made to all the descendants of Abraham. That's why you better watch out how you treat people. You never know when you're dealing with Abraham's great granddaughter. I was at an installation of a good friend of mine the other day. Kenyatta Gilbert was installed as the dean of the Howard University School of Religion, the dean of the Divinity School at Howard University. Kenyatta's a fairly young brother, about to turn 50 or so. We've known each other, 20 plus years. And I went back to be a delegate there for that installation. And I heard one of the professors, probably the longest reigning professor there, his name is Dr. Dean Trulier. He's been teaching there for 30 years or so. And Dean Trulier got up and made a really powerful point. He said, you know, I'm so glad that the Lord showed me his kindness and love, and how to show that kindness and love to people regardless of who they are. Because he said, over 20 years ago, I was a big-time preacher, preaching in a big-time church in a big-time city in New Jersey. I was the guest preacher, and people were waiting on me hand and foot. Did they want to know if I wanted warm water, cold water, tea, or punch, fruit basket, or nuts? And people just served me all over. And he said, I ran into this young man who was an intern. He kept bringing me treats and water and asked me if I needed anything. And I thank God that I treated him like a decent human being, because that young man who was a seminarian and doing his internship at the church where I was a big-time preacher is now my dean and my boss. He said, I'm glad I had a sense enough to treat him right. You never know who you're welcoming, who you're entertaining. That's why I find it so intriguing when Jesus goes into Zacchaeus' house and says, he too is a son of Abraham. I'm struck by that little bitty word with 3 letters in it, T-O-O. The word "to" signals something important in this passage. "To" is used to underscore the reality that has riddled Zacchaeus' life. And you see, people in this community have pushed him out. But Jesus says, Zacchaeus, you too belong. His peers says he has no place in the family of faith. But Jesus says, no, Jesus, you too are a child of God. The word "to" punctuates the feeling some have experienced from being excluded from the inheritance that is rightly theirs. That is why we need to reconfigure our view of hospitality, because the very people you want to shut out of your house, shut out of your heart, are the people Jesus wants to let in and tell them, you too. You don't get to take the "to" out of Jesus' mouth. I don't care if you're black or white, rich or poor, African or Asian, short or tall, big boned or skinny, hairy or bald head, college educated or street smart. God says, you too. Hospitality is giving somebody the love they need to succeed. Hospitality is an extension of God's love. And let me add, and then we're going home, that it's an expression of God's grace. It's an expression of God's grace. That's why you're supposed to be hospitable. God's been gracious to you, and you got to express that grace. I want you to know something. Hospitality is not limited to the stranger in the Bible. Somebody say, oh, I don't have to be nice. I don't have to be hospitable to my cousin. Oh, no, yeah, you do. Because I know them. Sometimes it's easy to be more hospitable to strangers because you don't know what they're capable of. Your cousin, you know what he's capable of. But hospitality is not limited to the stranger. Look at 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 9. Peter says, show hospitality to one another. That's the people you know. That's the people in your congregation. That's the people in your pew. That's the people who walk over your foot trying to get to their seat because you won't only sit on the end of the row. They can't get to their seat without going over you. And every now and then, 2 Sundays out of the year, they're going to step on your toe. It's going to happen. Just yeah. Show them hospitality. So I said, say it again. They're going to step on your toe. If nothing, you don't want to step on your toe, get up, get out the way and say, make your way kindly. Some of y'all want to put your leg out there like, I wish you. Hospitality, it says, show hospitality to one another without grumbling. Not only you do it, you're not supposed to grumble. You can't have no attitude. Girl, guess what she did today? Stepping on my good shoes. All your shoes are good shoes. Yeah, stepped on got my bad toe hurting. Get up and get out of the way and welcome him and them in. You can't do it with grumbling. That's the word of God. I ain't making it up. Show hospitality to one another without. Stop all that grumbling. Some of y'all be nice to people, but just y'all what we call nice nasty. Y'all know that term? My mama used to say that, oh, she kind of nice nasty. They'll hand you a peppermint and then roll their eyes. She can't bring her own children some peppermints. I got to give all 12 of her children some peppermints. And then you mad if they don't ask you for no peppermints. They didn't ask me for no peppermints today. What's wrong with my peppermints? They've been in your purse too long. That's what it was. And the children say they smell like your perfume. Show hospitality to one another without grumbling. Can I tell y'all something though? I'm gonna tell y'all what's wrong with this congregation and why the preacher gotta preach the way to preach. They are exhausted. They're exhausted. That's something you need to know about the churches that receive the sermon from the writer of Hebrews. They tired. They sick and tired of being sick. That's why they so mean. They tired. That's why some of y'all need to go home and get some rest. You're tired. And then come so you can show hospitality without grumbling, right? They're tired of serving the world. They're tired of coming to church. It's in the Bible. That's why Hebrews 10 and 25 says, forsake not the fellowship of the saints, as is the habit of some, right? Why they not coming to church? They tired of y'all. They tired of looking at y'all. They tired of y'all putting your feet in the way and they got to step over. They tired. This is true. This is literally what's going on in the church. They are tired, and that's why they're not being hospitable, right? That's why if you're tired, don't show up to greet that Sunday. Hey, come on in. They're tired of Christian education. They're tired of singing. They're tired of keeping their prayer lives up. Anybody ever get tired? Some of y'all get, don't say it out here. Some of y'all get tired of church, don't you? You get tired of church folk, don't you? Yeah. So we get tired. Some people are at the point where they're not even sure the people deserve their love, deserve their hospitality, deserve their grace, that's the problem with the church at Hebrews. That's why he had to remind them of who Jesus is. And then he says, y'all keep on loving one another. I know you're tired, but keep on loving one another. I know you're exhausted, but keep on loving one another. I know they get on your nerves, but keep on loving one another. I know they act nice, nasty, but keep on loving one another. I know they're all these strangers, the people who don't know, but don't forget to show hospitality. That's who he's talking to. He's talking to you with your tired self. But the preacher reminds them it's not about what the people deserve. It's about what the people need. People need love, Rico, to succeed. People need grace to succeed. When I was in college, there were two types of people. I don't know if they still have them. Two types of people who get scholarships. There's the need-based scholarship. Hallelujah, thank you. Pell grants. And then there was the merit-based financial aid. A lot of those were kind of snotty. They were like, oh, I'm not here on scholarship. Or my scholarship is not based on my parents' income. You know, mine is a merit-based scholarship. You know, and there was a whole kind of people talking, you know, about, oh, no. Don't sit at that table. They all need-based. Don't invite them to your bid with party. They need-based. The only people we invite to our parties are merit-based. The ones we want in our sorority, our fraternity are the merit-based. Well, I'm so glad today that grace is not merit-based. Grace is need-based. I'm so glad today that love is not merit-based. Love is need-based. I'm so glad today that hope is not merit-based. Hope is need-based. Some of us knew we were there in college or in school only by the grace of God. We didn't graduate magna cum laude. We graduated, thank you, Lord. Yeah, we were there because we were need-based. We took every Pell grant, every kind of grant they have, because grace ain't nothing but a grant you didn't deserve. I'm so glad, Reverend Nash, that God's grace is a need-based system. Grace has no limits. God's grace is so good. God's grace is so thorough that somebody once wrote a song that says, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Somebody said, Amazing grace shall always be my song of praise, for it was grace that bought my liberty. I do not know just how he came to love me so, but what I do know is he looked beyond. He looked beyond. He looked beyond all my faults, and he saw my needs. He looked beyond my sin. He looked beyond my mess. He looked beyond my missteps. He looked beyond my failures. He looked beyond my mistakes. He looked beyond my dirt, beyond my foolishness, and saw all my needs. Hospitality is giving someone what they need in order to succeed. It's an extension of God's love. It's an expression of God's grace. And I'm going to invite each of you this week and every week to practice hospitality in a myriad of ways. But specifically this week, I want to invite everybody to invite somebody to your house, your church house. Invite somebody to your home. By that, I mean your church home. Because anybody who doesn't have a church home has a need in order to succeed. Anybody in your sphere of influence who doesn't have a Savior has a need in order to succeed. We need to stop sitting by people on the job, in cafeterias, in restaurants, and not finding out if they need something you can offer. That offer might very well be an invitation. Come to my home, my church home, 1228 West Apache, www.metropolitanbc.org, or MetTV on YouTube. So everybody today, before you leave, I want you to get 2, 3, 4 of these invitation cards we had Merton develop for us. On one side, it says, the Met Church, the church that cares. You're invited. Be my guest. On the other side, it says, meet me at the Met. It gives the worship times and places and how you can worship online. It also has a QR code that person can scan And when they scan that code, it gives them all the information they need to be able to show up, to be able to identify themselves. Hopefully as a first-time visitor, and then a second-time visitor, and a third-time guest, and then a permanent member of the Met Church. I want everybody, the ushers are going to have them at the door. Don't leave without 2. If you're a little nervous about it, just put it on somebody's desk and put your name on it. Ray. Or you're talking to somebody, y'all talk to people all the time. You talk, oh girl, where you get your hair done? People ask me all the time, who shapes up your beard? I said, oh yeah, I can tell you who shapes up my beard, but I also want to tell you about who saved my life. Saved my soul. So take one of those. Yeah, you can meet me at the barbershop, but meet me at God's shop. Yeah. When people come to town, new to Tulsa, they say, where do people hang out? Where do they go? What kind of social life is there in Tulsa? I said, well, some people go to Retro. I think that's the old school. Where do young folk go, Raquel? Where y'all go? Raquel said, oh, I'm saved, thankfully. I don't know about that. Angela Steele, where y'all go, Angela? You be at the church. Okay. Okay, docks. Some people go to docks, right? Well, if you invite somebody to docks, invite them to the home where there's a doctor and he's healing. We ought to all be able to invite at least 2 people. After a while, you keep getting, we're going to make thousands of them. Sooner or later, somebody you invite to church is going to come. Tell them I sit in section 2 now. Now watch out, because you got to step over so-and-so's foot. She's a sweet lady. She just got good shoes. And, invite somebody to your church. If it's good for you, guess what? It's good for somebody else. Now don't invite somebody who already got a pastor at church home. Tell God bless you. You go and you stay where you are. Don't do that. Don't do that. But do you know that there are so many people who are unsaved and unchurched all around us? And here at the Met Church, we're going to rev up our practice of holy hospitality. And so the card is just to give you it gives you something you can, put in somebody's hand. Maybe one day when they're hurting, or maybe one day when they're happy, they'll remember you gave them this. And so, you know what? I ain't been to church in a long time. I'm going to pull up on the Met. Don't forget to welcome the stranger. For by so doing, some have welcomed angels, and they didn't even know it. The person you give this card to might be an angel, and you don't know it. The one person that God wants to send here to do this work with us. I want to extend an invitation to everyone who's in the sound of my voice, online and in person, to meet me at the Met. Let me be your pastor. Let the people around you love on you and show you hospitality. If you're here today and you don't have a church home, then I got something you need to help you succeed. In this home, there's encouragement, there's love, there's help, there's assistance, there's fellowship, you need all of that to succeed. So coming down the aisle for somebody today is not about joining a church. It's about getting what you need in order to succeed. So come get it. Come.
Amazing grace.
Come get it.